Hello, in this video we will discuss voluntary muscle contractions. But first, let's start by defining a muscle contraction. So muscle contraction is any time the brain sends a signal to the spinal cord and the spinal cord sends a signal to the target muscle to fire that muscle and pull both ends of that muscle closer to each other. So there's three main types of contractions. We have isotonic, which means iso stands for same and tonic stands for tension, so same tension contractions. Isometric, iso stands for same and metric stands for length, so same length contractions. And isokinetic, kinetic stands for speed, so same speed contractions. So today in this video we'll only discuss isotonic contractions. These isotonic contractions, they have tension throughout the movement. So there's two main types of isotonic contractions. So isotonic contractions can be subdivided into two types. There is concentric and eccentric. So concentric and eccentric. The concentric contractions is the one we're going to discuss first. The concentric contractions are when there is muscle shortening during the contraction. So the muscle length is decreasing during the contraction. So let's look at this muscle right here. So an actual potential comes from this alpha motor neuron, and we see that this length of this muscle is small. So there is muscle shortening during that contraction. That muscle was longer when it was relaxed, and then it shortened during this contraction. During eccentric contraction, it's the opposite. The muscle in its relaxed version was, or if it was concentrically contracted before, regardless of what position it was, but the muscle was in a shorter position and the muscle is elongating during the contraction. So the muscle is lengthening during that eccentric contraction. So we see here, during the eccentric contraction, that muscle is elongating, that muscle is lengthening during that contraction. But the same signal is still coming from the alpha motor neuron to fire those muscle fibers. So first thing you gotta ask yourself before you try to determine whether there is a concentric or eccentric contraction, you determine whether this muscle is actually being fired. So is this muscle contraction actually happening, and is it now concentric or eccentric? So that's first, you have to determine whether this muscle is actually involved in the movement. So let's take for example the biceps. The biceps, as we know, it flexes the elbow. So one of the main functions of the biceps is to flex the elbow. So in this example right here, the brain sends a signal to the spinal cord sends a signal to the muscle. That signal will pull both ends, we see with the red arrows, will pull both ends of the muscle closer to each other, which will in turn lead to elbow flexion. So we'll lift this arm up, this hand will come up. If this individual wants to lower their hand, so extend their elbow very slowly, now this individual will still have to contract the biceps to resist or to control the rate at which this hand lowers, the rate at which the elbow extends. So there has to be a muscular contraction here, but this muscle is not shortening, this muscle is lengthening. So as the individual, for example, if I picked up this marker, and this marker is 20 pounds in this example, if I wanted to flex my elbow, I will have to overcome the resistance of the 20 pounds, the gravity acting upon that 20 pounds. So my muscle will have to contract concentrically, pull both ends of this muscle closer together, so it lifts my hand. So it pulls my biceps will work to pull both ends together and lift, flex my elbow. So as I go back down, now this biceps is still contracting to slowly return it to a rest position. So there is still a contraction because I still have the signal coming from the brain, going to the spinal cord and going to the muscle, but now this muscle is lengthening as I do so. So that's what is called an eccentric contraction. So if I am overcoming the resistance, it is a concentric contraction. If I am controlling the resistance, it is an eccentric contraction. But first, it all starts by determining which muscle is actually contracting. Is there a muscular contraction? Then you can determine whether this contraction is concentric, eccentric, or isometric. So Thank you for watching this video. I hope you understand a little bit more how to differentiate concentric and eccentric muscle contractions, and email me if you have any questions.